Hey guys, we have an amazing guest with us today. This is an episode you are not going to want to miss, all about meetings and events around the world. Stay tuned.
This is Meeting Minds with Charles Eide. Join Charles as he chats with the leaders in today's event world on how you can take your events to the next level. Broadcasting from the IdeCom studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is Meeting Minds with Charles Eide.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to Meeting Minds. I am Ashley Hawks. I am here with my co-host, Charles.
What's up?
We're still getting our feet wet here as new co-hosts. This is what, our second or third podcast together?
Yep. We're working hard to figure out how to talk to each other. It's interesting. No, it's been good.
Not talk over each other.
And we're here in Orlando, which is super fun. We got a whole day full of recording today, which is exciting.
Yeah, this is one of three, so we'll be teasing some of the others.
Perfect. Today you've lined up something pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, I'm really, really excited about our guest today. He is the Senior Director of Global U.S. and Canada Meetings and Events at Marriott International, with just an incredible past, including Disney. I'm very excited to welcome John Hart. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. And I laugh at the new title because we combined our global and U.S. and Canada teams, because isn't U.S. Canada, isn't that included in global? But it's for more internal, I think, just to make sure we have everyone covered.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I love it. Okay, now you've been at Marriott International for how long now?
I have. I'm on my 17th year.
Really?
And a little nostalgic coming back to this property, as I spent most of my time here at Grand Lakes, Ritz-Carlton in particular for many, many years, and then supporting both brands, the JW and the Ritz-Carlton, but always in events, doing events, the convention side, social weddings, all that good stuff. And the past year and a half, give or take, a little bit of COVID time off, working up at headquarters and supporting the overall discipline, which is really my ultimate job, and happy to be a part of it.
Now, when you and I first spoke a couple weeks ago, headquarters is actually up in the East Coast?
Yes.
Yeah.
So up in Maryland. Bethesda, Maryland, D.C. area. And the nice thing is, even previous, I was working remote and traveling some. But now, for the most part, everyone works remote. So we're kind of all in the same bag. And actually, my boss was at headquarters yesterday, and it's still a little eerie, as most are working remotely. And but eventually, we'll get back actually building a new headquarters in downtown Bethesda.
Really?
Which is very exciting. And right next door to it will be a Marriott hotel.
Well, of course.
Well, no kidding.
Of course, right?
Gonna have to go visit that one.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be another brand, but so that's exciting to have that right in downtown, and we're all looking forward to that. Probably Q1 of 2022.
Okay.
So we'll see. But for now, the existing headquarters is there, with not too many people.
Yeah.
Getting back though.
Well, and I'm glad that you recommended this location, the Grand Lakes. We'll actually link this in our show notes, just because this property is so beautiful and it's so close to the airport. But I do want to mention the signature scent, because I think that's so interesting with the Marriott hotels. Marriott has a signature
It's
scent.
true. You walk in the lobby and you're like, I really like this place and I don't know why. And then you're like, it smells really good in here too. But it's not like grandma's fresh baked cookies.
No. Well, and believe it or not, we have done that as well. The whole scent program was a little more advanced in some of our properties, where we actually would do in the afternoon, in the morning, cookie smell and things like that.
Is that like a
Maybe
smell you can pump out, or do you actually have to make the cookies?
No, it's not a mini bake oven, stuck in the corner. Yeah, it actually is a scent that it was like a pod that you would put into a machine.
What?
And then some of the systems will filter through the HVAC system.
No way.
Yeah. But it's all about that sense of place. So you come and you think, oh, I'm home. I feel back to where I was or where I was before. And the scents sometimes are by hotel. They could be by brand. But it's very subtle.
Yeah.
But again, just to give you that sense of place and feeling like, wow, welcome back. I'm happy to be here again.
It is true. You do kind of get that sense. I've only stayed at Marriott, and it is probably the last 10 years now.
Only stay.
No, that's
never been to another one.
No. I only
By choice,
basically
yes.
only their properties.
Right.
But it is one of my favorite things when you arrive is you got that smell that kind of welcomes you.
Right.
in.
Well, we'll get you the new Marriott cologne.
Which I can smell like a hotel.
Yes. So every day can be like at a Marriott.
Oh my gosh, that's so
that's
fun.
what you're getting for
So
your birthday, by the way.
Marriott by Brittany.
That might be our new line for revenue is all the different scents, cologne and perfume.
Well, scent is the closest sense tied to memory.
It's true.
So, I mean, if you, like you said, you want people to feel like they're at home, you
Absolutely.
know, and there is some psychology behind that.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah.
Okay, so I got to get onto this. So we're in the middle of this COVID thing. The world's trying to come out of it. You are kind of the tip of the sword being the venues, right? For the in-person side of things. And I know that you as an individual human don't always speak on behalf of the company at large, but I want to just ask you about your own kind of like, how did it all happen to you guys, right? And we'll leave that as the short part.
Okay.
But more importantly, what's your vision for reopening and regathering, and what do you see it being like?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to say that COVID impacted our industry is a complete understatement. Devastating, completely devastating. And in particular, when I look at our discipline around the event side, even more so. I mean, gathering people, and as humans, we want to gather. I mean, even when you look at the social side of wedding, and we sort of laugh a little bit when we think, okay, we're going to have a socially distanced wedding, even though we're doing them and doing them very well. It's a bit of an oxymoron. It doesn't really make sense. But it is encouraging, not to get too far ahead of myself, with the vaccinations and some of the guidelines opening up a little bit, that we know there's that demand and people crave that human connection. And even for me personally, and I can probably speak for many of my colleagues, to even get back to a hotel like today is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I put a jacket on, it wasn't too dusty. And we've done some fairly large events at our properties. And for us, it's really about creating environments that make our attendees comfortable. And as we were talking before, everyone has a different level of that.
Yeah, it's totally
we all
true.
have friends that have not been out, in a year,
Yeah.
and we have friends that don't even realize that there's a pandemic going on.
Yeah.
But we have to cater to all of them, and it's about giving options. So for us on the meeting side, I think it's a great umbrella. We came up with this connect with confidence. How do we give everyone confidence that, hey, it's okay. It's okay to meet in person because we're doing the right things.
Yeah.
And there's some basic stuff, right? Cleanliness and extra cleaning and making sure we were one of the first big organizations to say, hey, look, we need to wear masks.
Yeah.
Not only to protect our employees and associates, but also our guests and creating that environment. And we have a commitment to our employees. I mean, we're nothing without our employees, and we have to make sure for them in particular that, hey, we're going to create an environment that you feel comfortable coming into.
Yeah.
So for us, it's just how do we continue to layer initiatives. So first, the basics up, the cleaning. What are we doing with cleaning protocols? How's housekeeping work? How's food and beverage going to look a little bit differently, especially in the banquet situation? And we've done a great job with that. And then on top of that, we layered in some health protocols a few months ago where we're not in the business of testing, but we at least did the research and identified vendors that, hey, again, as an option, do you want temperature checks? Do you want everyone to get tested before they arrive or have testing on site? And again, just including all those things to create that environment that encourages people to meet again.
Yeah, and every group's got their different thresholds for risk. Every group's got their different ideas of what safety is. So I think it's really cool.
Right.
You're thinking about how do we provide those offerings and let the customer make that choice.
Absolutely.
Having options.
Every customer is going to be different. I mean, we've had customers through this that are, everyone's isolated at home, Zoom only, and then you've got others that are like, nope, we're meeting, we're going for it. I mean, we did a show back in October in person for 400 people. It was
That's
all
great.
distanced. It was down at the Desert Ridge JW.
Yep.
And then there was another 12 or 1,500 people online. And that organization was like, we're going to do everything we can, but if social distancing and masks work, then let's let them work and let's get together.
Yeah.
And
great.
it was a completely safe event. We had total success, no cases. There was actually
love it.
450
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
in one
Yeah.
ballroom. And that's
Awesome.
not
That's great.
including the tech and, the crew and everything like that. So you can imagine how big this ballroom was.
Right.
But it worked. And the interesting thing with the hybrid model is you're actually seeing some people not with health concerns, but they actually prefer just to stay home and consume the content that way. And so, you know,
I don't want
we're
to put
learning.
pants on today.
But they realize, you know, the organization you're talking about, they normally bring in 800 people to this event. We've been working with them for years. They have 800 people every year. They've got 450 people in person and then 1,500 online.
Yeah.
That's
huge
amazing.
success.
What's the growth for them?
Well, and they already said, you know, in the future, even if things go back to normal, we still would like to move forward with hybrid again next year because it was such a success. The sponsors were happier, you know, they're able to reach a broader audience.
Yeah.
It was, so there is some good that can come out of this.
Absolutely. It was interesting. You touch on comfort level, and we even did some events where we gave out wristbands with different colors. And that was a nonverbal way of saying, hey, look, I'm here because I really just want to engage in the content, but I'm not really into chit-chatting too much, and they would maybe be a red. And then some that maybe had a little bit more comfortable level, maybe it might be a yellow. And then green was, hey, look, if we can eat together and spend a little more time together, that's great. So little things like that, again, give that comfort level, those options to some of our attendees. And, you know, we do hope, when you just mentioned your event, you had 450 in person, 1,500 virtual, that we're starting to see that turn where we're getting more in person and then less virtual. And but you know, my opinion as we move forward is most organizations will probably have to provide some sort of virtual component. They're going to have that contingency of attendees or employees that may not just feel comfortable quite yet meeting in person, or maybe they have been vaccinated. Again, hopefully that number is the smaller portion, but giving that virtual or hybrid component to it, it's going to be important, and I think it's going to be around for a while.
Do you see the rumblings of stuff kind of coming back, and kind of at what pace are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, unfortunately, when we think back to 6-9 months ago, it was a bit of a mass exodus. There just was a lot of unknowns. Nobody wanted to take liability of, you know, God forbid, nobody wanted to say, "Oh, my event was a super spreader event."
Yeah.
Right.
But we didn't know a lot back then. You know, it was a day where you left your groceries outside for 3 days. You didn't want to touch them.
Well, we didn't know anything.
We didn't know any better. But you know, now that there's science behind it, there's you know, fact, and that's what we really want to focus on. You know, the demand is coming back, and we definitely are seeing it more and more. We had a great start to the year, right out of the gate. You know, some states, just depending on restrictions, maybe had a little bit more flexibility with events. But as we progress through the year, demand for new events, you know, groups that are on the books, is only growing.
Well, I was going to ask you. So you are here in Florida.
Yes.
Florida's been like a big hot topic on the national event stage because they've been open so much longer than, say, Las Vegas.
Right.
So what are you seeing comparatively? I mean, are you seeing Florida really taking the cake right now?
You know, we have a lot of advantages in Florida. First off, we look at a day like today. Here we are, mid-March, and it's 80 degrees. It's an awesome place to be. So I guess I should work for Visit Florida to get more people down here.
We'll tag them, see if we can get some sponsorship.
Exactly. So it was it's a combination of, there's fantastic properties, there's beaches, there's places they want to go. Even my wife and I went away back in September to the beach, and they were physically sold out. And this is September, because there is that demand. And granted, being at the beach, it's outdoors, people feel a little bit more comfortable. But Florida is at an advantage with other areas around the country and the globe that maybe restrictions aren't quite as rigid. And with the right protocols, whether it's what we follow, the local ordinances, or what Marriott has put in place to keep our attendees and guests safe. And our rule of thumb is whatever's the more stringent. If the local ordinances are more stringent, we need to follow those. If the Marriott designated protocols are more stringent, we need to follow that. Because we want to be responsible. We want to make sure that if we're opening up for events, that we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, totally. Are you seeing that your calendar in the Florida properties is booking up more than your other properties around the country?
You know, yes, but we also do see those trends, quite frankly, across the globe.
Really?
You know, when you think back to even 6 weeks ago with the vaccinations, we were falling behind and weren't working well. You know, fast forward a month later, we're ahead of schedule. We think we're going to have, you know, greater vaccinations by the spring and early summer. So all that's really encouraging, and people want to meet in person. I mean, hands down, and I'm sure the events that you've attended in person, you probably heard it a million times. It's so great. Oh. It's so great to be here and see people.
Nothing like it.
And yeah, even though you see, you know, only people's eyes, it's okay. But there's just that natural tendency, people want to be around people. So with the protocols and the vaccinations coming online, yes, overall we are seeing a increasing demand for in-person meetings. And again, some of them with that virtual component because they know they're going to have a few people that may not be there quite yet.
Yeah. Ashley and I were having an interesting talk about you this morning because we were curious, what is it like to keep your team together the best you can through all this? Well, how did you stay united together?
Right. It's a really good question. Again, this has been devastating to the organization and to so many great friends and colleagues that lost their jobs, but the business just was not there. But what we found quickly at the properties was really this one team mentality. What do we all need to do together collectively to make it happen, especially around the group and event side? Because we're not in the time where it's event. It's maybe, hey, we have a big event this week. Maybe there's a little bit of a hiatus. We have another event in a few days. And it's all hands on deck. We have so many of our event teams and event leaders helping out in the restaurants, running the spa, setting rooms. I tell you, the camaraderie of our associates and employees around the world it's really been great. They're doing what it takes. They have great attitudes. And they're just so thrilled to even have the opportunity to wow, we're setting a banquet hall for a 100-person dinner. Oh my gosh, awesome. And they're excited, they're pumped, and they're happy to be a part of it. But definitely that one team mentality, the camaraderie, knowing that, again, so many of our colleagues and friends are out of work and hey, we're part of that momentum to get things going again and bring it back. And everyone is just really jazzed about that. We actually just completed a video that we had snippets from our event leaders around the globe, just really talking about it's really well done. And I'll see if I can maybe send it to you, include it in the podcast. I might be getting ahead of myself. But just how it was devastating, but how excited we are that, human connection is who we are. And we want to provide the environment for those meetings and events again, and how just jazzed we are to get everybody back to meeting again face to face.
That's so cool. That says so much about the leadership, I think, too. It says so much about the company's values. I mean, because in a pandemic and in any emergency, you really can go one direction or the other. There can be utter chaos and panic and,
right.
And people are losing jobs. There's a lot of emotion tied to this. But the fact that you guys are able to bring people together and give the staff hope and, even come out of this hopefully stronger.
Right.
Again, it's looking for the
optimism
good.
is crazy to me because people who were so negative before are finding negativity through anything.
Of course.
But then you've got the people who are optimistic about everything. Stuff starts coming back, and like you said, a room full of 100 people brings so much excitement, more excitement than 1,000 people, because you're oh my gosh, it's coming back. We're starting to gather again.
Oh yeah, and we talked about this previously, Ashley. But when I think about our hotels, we're extremely fortunate that we have great owners. We have beautiful properties, and I was struggling when you said, "Hey, what's my favorite property?" And as I'm going through the list, I'm like, "Well, there's that one, there's that one, there's that one," and I'm like, "Man, there's something for every occasion and everywhere where I want to go." But the thing that's constant, no matter what brand it is or what we're doing, is our people. The heart and passion and the belief and the optimism is there. It's every day, whether it's the housekeeping team or those that are setting up the banquet rooms, the general managers, whoever it might be. One hand, we have to be optimistic because it's what we do, but it goes so much deeper than that, that the true spirit to serve and providing an environment where people feel comfortable gathering and they're having a great time. And we know that when people do come to gather now, we've got to make it even better. We have to make the experience, the food and beverage, every element of that gathering even better. So they walk away going wow, I waited a long time for this. And I'm so glad I'm back and we're doing meetings.
So something that you just had mentioned, the spirit to serve. And this is something Marriott is known really well for. And it's something I've always wanted to ask someone in charge at Marriott.
Well, let me go find someone.
Is how is it that you keep a worldwide staff of people so service oriented and kind? I have yet to have a complaint about anybody at these properties. I've never run into a grumpy person, and I'm going, how are you doing this?
Yeah. Well, number one, the medication works really well. No, just kidding.
It's the scent in the air.
It is. It's the new cologne we just launched that makes everyone just so happy to be here. There's so much that goes into that, but then, and again, not my area of expertise, and I'm fortunate that I am one of those individuals that feels fortunate and happy and just great to be a part of the organization. But, and I think back to as we went through the pandemic, it was about being candid, being honest, saying I don't know when I don't know, or we need to wait for the facts before we make a decision. And I think sometimes that being candid and truthful, and people respect that, and they have the feeling that no matter what I do in the property, I don't need to be the general manager. I can be washing dishes in the employee cafeteria, but I am just as important as anyone else because I know my place in the big picture. Mm-hmm. And we do a great job of making sure that everyone's trained. They have the support. They have the mechanisms for communication, especially now. Mm-hmm. Hey, if you're not feeling okay, let's talk about it. What do we need to do to get you comfortable? And making it personal because it is a personal business. And it starts at the top, our culture. And it's not it's Tuesday today. Okay, it's Employee Tuesday. We need to be nice. No, it's every day. It's every interaction. And I hope Disney people don't get mad at me for saying this, but I spent a few years at Disney, and it was backstage, on stage, backstage, on stage. But when I joined the Marriott team, and even the Ritz-Carlton in particular, it's like, no, we say good morning, good afternoon to you, no matter where you are. There wasn't really an on stage or heart of the house. Yes, we have a heart of the house and with the dish room and stuff, but we didn't magically transform when we came through the door. Oh, we're going in the lobby. I need to change. No, we're acting that same way to one another, even behind the scenes. So it's that genuine interaction.
I love that.
Regardless.
Does it come down to? Obviously, when you do that, you're going to attract people who want to work for you that have that mindset. Have you seen through COVID, it's even further refined who really is made of gold and who maybe wasn't?
Yeah, yes and no. Again, I think that the COVID piece went so deep, and so many great people lost their jobs, and it really is heartbreaking. And for some, maybe there's a silver lining. I have many friends and colleagues that I always wanted to do real estate. Now I'm doing it now, or I never. I was in Sherwin-Williams. I ran into someone I used to work with, and they're like, "Yeah, it's a great organization," and so there's some good comes from that. But I think that those that kind of made it through, for lack of better terms, for me personally, I feel very fortunate, and I feel like I'm still here. I even more motivation. I need to show value every day, and for us being above property, how do we continue to make it real? Like, are we doing things that matter? Are we doing things that can impact the business right now? And is it what our hotels are asking for? Not to say that wasn't what we were doing before, but it's very focused now. The team's a little bit smaller. We do things that really matter. We're more collaborative. I feel like I'm listening even more so. And even after we get done here, I'm going to grab a little bit of time with all the event leaders here in Orlando. I just want to be a part of that. What's going on at your properties? What do you need? What are you hearing? How can we support? And every hotel is a little different, especially now where you have states and counties that have different restrictions, and every hotel is a little different right now. So you really have to pay attention. It'd be nice if there was a one size fits all, but to really hone in on things that can impact the masses, but also be respective of every hotel is a little different, and there's some different things they need to work through, and how can we support that?
Yeah.
Well, and the communication has to be even more important between the hotels and between the leaders and the staff and all the teams. It's constantly changing.
It is, and it's a bit of a catch-22 where I mentioned that one team mentality. Our teams are at the hotels they're lean. They're staffed based on the business levels. And we always will think of that. We always want to staff for the business levels. It's like, we need to cut dollars. No, well, what's the occupancy? What are we expecting? How do we need to prepare for that? And then we will do that accordingly. So we always have to be more respective of time. So it's like, hey, if I'm going to pull the GM or the director of events out of their operation for an hour for updates, it better be good. It better be good because they don't have that time. Again, the event director might be thinking, gosh, I need to go help set that room, or the kitchen needs help plating up. My time is even more valuable. So it's even a bit more pressure on us to make sure, hey, if we're going to take their time, it better be content that's going to help them. And that's the way we look at it. So, it kind of goes back to that uber focus now that we're a little bit leaner, a little bit more focused, but it makes so much sense. And it's good. And we're moving forward.
Right. Right. Oh, that's so good.
I just love your energy and your optimism. Even after 17 years, it seems like you're more energized than you've ever been.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, it's interesting. I'm fortunate that I speak at some colleges and talk to those that are freshmen and sophomores, and they tell you, I want a job, and you're doing internships, and one of the things that I'll always say is, it's nice when you can find an organization that matches your personal values. Because then at that point, it's not a job. It's really not. It is a career. It's something that, wow, the organization that I'm a part of has very similar beliefs that I believe in. So it makes it very natural. And even think back to my Ritz-Carlton days that, we want to select those for their natural talent. And we will tell individuals, we don't want to make you something that you're not. We're selecting you because we like who you are.
Yes.
And how can we continue to enhance that and give you those tools from a technical standpoint to make it happen. And this was one thing I learned at Disney way back when was, you hire for who they are, the personality, the energy,
totally,
the smile,
the values.
Yeah. I mean, we can't teach that, but I can teach you how to run the attraction or the cash register. That's the easy part. And I definitely see those parallels in the Marriott organization as well.
It just talking to you further solidifies why I'm a Marriott, not myself. I'm sorry if anybody listening and watching that doesn't like Marriott or you work at a different property. I'm really sorry, but
it's not just like a
I'm
Marriott hotel.
Sorry.
I mean, it's any brand that you feel very connected to. When you're in there's a online shopping company and they just go above and beyond and follow up, and they do a little handwritten note whenever I get something. And so I mean, you notice those personal touches.
Absolutely.
As a consumer. You feel more connected to the brand versus just a random customer, and you're more inclined to spend more time and money with them in the future.
So I have an interesting question for you that I keep asking leaders this, and that is, how do you continue to evolve and grow to be better for your team?
Wow. Okay, now we've gotten really deep all of a sudden. Well, the first thing, it's mindset. So when I was at the property level and I led an event team, those on the event team were my customers. And that's the way I looked at it. And now above property, the event teams at all the properties, whether it's the event leaders, the banquet operations, they're my customers. And with that mentality, for me personally, it's not something that we necessarily promote from a Marriott standpoint, but for me personally, that's the way I think about it. So when I get a phone call from a property leader, you're my priority. Let me call you back. Because I always tell people too, look, if it wasn't important, they're going to email. So if someone calls you, it's got to be pretty important. And to know if they were a customer of mine, that's what I would do, because if it's important to them, it's important to me. So especially now with everyone a little on edge, there's a lot going on, things are still evolving. Yes, things are getting better, but how can we continue to offer that, so that technical support and that emotional support? I love catching up with our event teams. I was on a call 2 days ago with an event leader that I hadn't really spoken to in a while. And after the call, I sent him a note and said, I apologize that we didn't get a chance just to talk, just to catch up. I want to hear what's going on with you, what's happening at the property. So I put a Teams call, we use Teams, on the calendar for next week. I'm like, let's do it. And one thing I learned from a good friend of mine is you just have to do it. So many times, let's get together, let's catch up. And it never happens. And I made a commitment to myself a few years back that it's going to be an immediate reaction. If I say that, there's going to be something on your calendar, or we're going to talk.
That's
then,
gold.
because it's not going to happen. And I am the one to say, hey, we haven't talked in a while, or man, we've been emailing for 3 months and I haven't spoken to you, and I'm going to pick the phone up. So now, again, above property, where my customers are our internal employees, same mentality. I want to talk to you. It's like, hey, look, I would do the same thing for my customer, and especially coming from the luxury world, which is such high relationship and high touch, and just truly taking the time to understand our customers. And that's the luxury piece. And I think because I had that for so long, that it even carries through into my personal life. And I think how I treat my kids and my wife, and they're all wearing Marriott cologne right now. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a mindset, and to me, it's that I'm here for them, and how can I provide value every day for them and make their world a little bit better. And that charges me. That makes me really excited to be so fortunate in a position that I'm in, that I can do that I have that impact.
It's so cool that you treat your colleagues like they're your customer, because they are your customer, really.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they are, and it makes it rewarding for me. And it's genuine. It's not just, they're my customer, I need to call them. I want to.
Yeah.
I really want to understand. And, being at the property salon, it's like, it's just another initiative that corporate's pushing down to us. And, we laugh about that on our team, and we'll reference that sometimes. Like, is this just something that someone's going to say, why? This doesn't make any sense. Even more motivation than to truly understand, what are you looking to fix, or what do you need help with, or how can we make your life a little bit easier, or drive more revenue? Let's really hone in on that, and then let's make what we're providing more targeted and more real and actionable at the property level. And again, now with the way we're set up and having to value time so much more, it makes it even that much more critical.
That's cool. Okay.
I wanted to say in all of our conversations, and we've been meeting just some incredible people over the last couple of months. I'm really starting to see a theme between a real leader and someone who's just a boss. Ooh. And a real leader has this consistent theme, and you hit the nail on the head. It's about others. It's about service. It's about relationships. It's not about numbers and meetings and this and what. It's so personal, and it's very genuine, and it's very the service oriented.
It's like part of who you are.
Yes,
really,
but
I love that.
Yeah, you can really tell the difference between somebody who's just a boss versus a true leader.
So when you're hiring, I always wondered, we had a podcast with Monty Moran, who was a co-CEO of Chipotle, and it was very interesting. He was talking about how, as a leader, his job is to find other leaders and raise them up to go above him. And I was wondering, when you hire people, or when you bring people on your team, how do you determine if they have what it takes or not? What's the lens you look at that through?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's the technical side. You can ask the questions, you can listen, you can make sure they're complete. But it's that feeling. And it's interesting. I think back a few years ago, we selected an individual to come in as an assistant into the event team. And sitting down with her, the energy, she was so crisp and positive and smart. And you walked away and you think, oh my gosh, I hope she selects us. Forget about us offering her a job. Like, man, I hope she picks us. And it was great, because at the time I had a few of my colleagues with me, and often I would reference that. They would interview someone. I'm like, what'd you think? Like, well, they're really good. They had really good experience. I'm like, you remember that feeling you had a couple years ago? They're like, yeah. I'm like, did you have that? Not enough said. You're answering your own question. So it's nice, at least at that point, with those two individuals, that you had a reference. But to know that, wow, you could just see that individual engaging with our guests and our customers, and even internally, and how they're going to support each other and the different teams. But really going with sometimes that gut. And was the interview comfortable? And were you excited to be around them? And again, if you could say, "Oh my gosh, I hope they select us," man, that's a home run. Bring them on.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in closing, because we're running out of time, I want to ask you, what is your advice to people who are just getting started in the events industry?
Yeah, great question, and get asked that often. If you want to get into events, just do it. It doesn't matter whether it's at your church, your fraternity, your school, because there's so many parallels to learn the basics around events, how critical communication and details are. And that can happen at any stage of the game. And then also things about having fun and making sure to depend on other people. But just getting event experience no matter what. So if you're in a restaurant, as an example, and you've identified that, I like being a server, but I think I might enjoy events a little bit better. Well, I can guarantee you that restaurant's probably doing some events. Raise your hand, get in there, and just get some of that experience, because no matter what it is or how small it is, there's so many parallels. And whether you're planning an event for 10 or 10,000, you're going through the same motions.
So get experience.
Get experience. And it doesn't matter at what. Even if it's your church and they say, hey, we need someone just to help out coordinating the wedding ceremonies. And you might just be holding the door. Go do it.
I love that.
Because it's what you want to do. So you're going to take in so much more than someone just holding the door.
Right.
You're going to watch. You're going to listen. You're going to see how it works. You're going to see people getting upset. You're going to see how people handle that. So no matter where you are, even if you're an event concierge, and that's always one of my favorite spots to start in our hotels, because you work with operations, you work with event planning, you see the customer, but it's the awesome seat to just observe and watch and see how it all works, see how things don't work, and then you can grow from that.
Oh, that's so good.
Man, that is so good. I wish we had like 3 days to hang out with you,
Yeah, this is
man.
good. No, I've enjoyed it, and I do appreciate the opportunity. And no, this has been fun.
This
Thank
is
you.
so great. I'm so glad we made another great friend in the event industry. And I'll tell you, we would love to have you back on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
We'll have to see how many people actually watch or listen to the podcast, and then we'll go from there.
I think he's just looking for another excuse to come back to Orlando.
It's true, actually.
Yeah,
I just want to go to Disney World again.
Yeah, all right, that's fine.
No, I'm kidding. Well, for those of you listening, thank you for being a part of the Meeting Minds audience. We love you guys. I hope you got I know you got tons of value out of this, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week for another great episode. Have a good week.
Thank you for listening to Meeting Minds. Meeting Minds. Brought to you by IDECOM Event Production. Changing the world one audience at a time. Follow IDECOM Creative and Meeting Minds podcast on Instagram. And check out meetingminds.org to find show notes for this episode, past episodes, and inspiration. As always, please subscribe, leave a review, and tune in next week for another episode of Meeting Minds.